Welcome back to another episode of Voices Talk Show. I am very excited to be here today with my brand new panel. This is an all-black panel for the very first time, so I'm really excited to be doing that. I wanted to go ahead and give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves.
My name is Lionel Ciceron. I live and work in this community, and I have 2 children with my beautiful wife, Josette.
Kevin Taylor. I am a community leader here. I work at a church, and I work with youth students in District 206.
My name is Robert Cumberbatch, and I work and live in the Alexandria area.
My name is Leandra Collier, and I recently just moved out of Alexandria.
So, how do you feel locally in the time that we're in right now, being in our community? I mean, this year has been filled with everything from the pandemic to George Floyd to the recent, verdict. I guess it's not even a verdict since no one was really even charged for Breonna Taylor. And overall, it's a really intense year. So how are you doing here locally?
I was just speaking with a very dear friend, before I came here, and she was expressing just kind of her opinion and her feelings about like all of it, and just how there's so much, let's call it disdain, for mentioning things that maybe you don't directly relate to because it doesn't directly affect your people group. Mm-hmm. And the Black community is a very unique and interesting people group, and not everyone relates to it. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something that's really hard here because it's the visibility of us, because we definitely get noticed. We just aren't acknowledged or uplifted or represented anywhere in the community. And I think that that's probably been the hardest to cope with since I moved here 5 years ago. And that combined with the outright racism that I experienced directly, it's lonely. It's a lonely feeling, and I just want to know, like, if you guys are experiencing that or have experienced that. What do you think, Rob?
With the things that are going on, and not to point one party out or another, but it's just as we get closer to the election, you're starting to hear more of the things that you start to take to heart that kind of hurt, And then there's a lot of untruths, in the way people view, our community based on what someone says it is versus what we know it is. I mean, we know that racism exists, but it seems that from that time to now, it's just become so much greater than it was before. Not that it ever went away, but it's just like more blatant now. It's out there for you to see, and it's just unfortunate.
And I think it's important for our community to hear from the people who actually live these lives, who are actually Black and experiencing it, to hear like what we think that is and what that means to us as individuals. For me, Black Lives Matter is simply a true statement. It is everything that I am and work for and have been, and it makes me feel like, there's some level of like hope later on that will actually not be something we have to keep saying, but someone's noticing that there's a discrepancy somewhere. And so it's a comforting phrase to me when it comes to the organization and what they do. I support them because I know they're trying to do positive things to end the war on racism, on us, on our bodies, on our future kids. To me, it's so important that my children realize that their lives really do matter, because I didn't believe it, and I think I'm still having a hard time believing it. So in a way, it's like comforting myself saying it.
Black Lives Matter, I think it's an important group. Because like you said, just the name of the group says so much. Those people say, okay, no, we're going to do this quiet protest. This is a protest. We're not being violent. We're going to walk. We may say chants, sing songs, but we're not doing anything violent. And so they began to do that, and then they had people from the outside who said, okay, no, this is no, it's going too good for their community. We need to show what we want to be shown about them. We need to change the scenario and what people see. And so they began to have people come out there, and they're going and setting things on fire. They're going and doing this. And then I watched other people, get together and say, hey, no, we're not doing this here.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is not what it's about. And so I really think that is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really tired of the narrative being spun in the media with them associating Black Lives Matter and Antifa to terrorist groups and correlating the two. And you see the people that are going out and purposefully setting things on fire and breaking windows, and just so the groups can get blamed for it, just so Trump has more fodder for his base, and it's getting really bad out there.
What's it like being here and having that energy at work around you?
It's isolating. I mean, I can't lie, it does get lonely at work. I mean, and now it feels like, I think there was an incident where I did let a coworker have it, kinda, with everything else going on, and we kind of haven't talked about politics since then. It's probably why we don't talk about it, honestly. But it was only after the George Floyd, murder happened that I actually spoke up and said something. It had been going on, this whole year, parts of last year, and I just haven't really spoken up. And since then, it just set a fire under me that's like, I'm gonna have to say something every single time. Have to come correct with people every single time.
Yeah.
But in doing that, though, again, you put yourself in a corner, and nobody wants to associate with you. So
it's pretty
controversial.
It's pretty easy to get isolated when you have an opinion one way or the other, and so I'm going to take the opposite opinion because my struggle with Black Lives Matter right now is like when our little black boys and girls get caught in the crossfire and nobody goes and says anything. If we're really gonna say it, like, I want it to be for everything. And so when I think about those things, and when we come together and we value education, we value the family, we value all of those things that are important, then and only then will the organization or the movement of Black Lives Matter actually be important to all people. And I think that a lot of people don't take it seriously because we sometimes don't take ourselves seriously, right? And it sucks. It sucks because when you're educated and when you make moves to try to better your community, and then you have those that are like, no.
Yeah,
no.
And I understand that, just being in this community. I realize that not every black person wants to be a social justice warrior. I'm well aware of that.
And I don't need you to be.
Right.
I just need you to do better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just need you to do better. You don't have to go out and fight every battle. You don't even have to go to the march. That's fine.
Yeah.
Stay in your house. That's cool. Just do better. Because
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, a lot of the luxuries that we enjoy were built on our backs. So if that's gonna be true, nobody owes me anything.
One of the hardest things for me being in this community is because there's this air of it's almost like that old school master slave feeling of we have to be grateful for the fact that you're even living here. Of course, be grateful for that little job that we threw your way. Be grateful that you get to, even live in a place. Forget about the place might be falling apart, and you can't even get someone to show you a property that's actually good. Forget about that. We gave you the space, and you should be grateful for it. Yeah, I get it. We're not that many here, but we're still a community. We're still people, and that's difficult when you feel like you're always in a fight to just be treated normally, to be treated human. And I think that comes back to microaggressions, and that's something we live with on a regular basis. What does that feel like? What are some examples of microaggressions and just straight up racism you've experienced?
When you talk about microaggressions, I think about those who look at you and say, "How did you get here?"
Yeah, I get that question.
What are you doing? What are you doing here? And who let you in? Right? I have a different experience than most because my mother-in-law was the Chamber of Commerce director. So my experience has been pretty good. But I look at my brothers and sisters in the community and I go, you probably don't have the same access that I do. Come with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So how do we do that? How do we live with that? How do we like walk that out? You know, because sometimes you get a brother or sister that gets up here and they forget about everybody else that's back there.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm curious to hear about you guys' experience because mine it's probably been better than most.
Well, I'd say because when I'm usually out in the community, I'm usually at work anyway because I don't like to be out. I don't go out for that reason. I don't feel safe in this community like that, especially now. I had a young coworker, just still in high school, actually saying the N-word just frivolously at work, like it's perfectly fine. I had to pull him aside, like, what are you doing? You know? And he's like, oh, I got permission from a friend. You got permission from a friend, you know? And I tried to explain to the kid, like I didn't get angry with him. I tried to explain to him though, like, you know it's wrong to say that, right? Like, even though you may hear us say it, like, it doesn't give you the right to say it. It's like, oh, it's 2019. What does that have to do with this?
That's exactly why you should know better.
It was racist back then. It's still racist now. Like, you need to stop saying it. And I realized he was like, that's him and all of his friends felt that way. And these incidents were piling up. You know, I have another person, oh, I'm from Cali, I can say it. I have another friend who gave me permission. Like, for real? You know, and he said it in front of a manager of mine. Yeah. He did nothing about it. Yeah. He just didn't say anything about it. So it was coworkers who defended me. Because I kept telling him, like, you need to stop saying it. Because I was getting upset. It wasn't the time for it. I had enough by that point, you know. And it feels like at most of these workplaces, they hear stuff all the time. Back home, people would say it in whispers, you know. No one would say it out loud. No one was bold enough to say it. Here, you can say it without repercussion. You can do it all the time. We had another coworker. This is the same job. We actually complained on this guy because he was being racist towards all the foreign students that were there, and nothing happened. He was allowed to keep his job. They just talked to him, and he was allowed to still work with us. And I was like, what? Really? Like, you know, I didn't necessarily quit the job. I never went back though after winter time because I'm not going to put myself through that. Like, I'm never going to put myself through that again. And it feels like that's just how this community is as a whole. Like, this stuff is just normal here. They were used to it when there wasn't much of us here. And now there's more of us here, and we're getting to see all of that.
We didn't come here on our own accord. We were literally ripped away from our land, stripped of our identities. And once we went through all these things, you went from slavery to the black codes and all those other laws that just kept the system going. The system that we still today keep claiming there's no systemic racism. That's the system we're still operating on. We were literally still in chains when this Constitution was written out. It was never made for us, though we built it. And we built this country, and we haven't seen just the acknowledgement, the grace, the understanding. It's hard when you're dealing with people who put you in a situation, and this is what your ancestors did, but now we're here, and you're telling me to get over it. But I'm still struggling. You've got generations of wealth already built up, but I'm still over here trying to make ends meet and pay my light bill. And the fact that you don't see that discrepancy is probably the most hurtful part of the entire experience. So I think that this is probably one of the first, panels that looked like this in Alexandria. So I really want to make sure that I give you guys the opportunity to share what is it that you would like this community to do to make you feel seen, heard, valued.
Just don't be so assuming when you see us. Like, really, just
forget the stereotypes.
Yeah, the implicit biases that reside in this town. It's really bad. Just take a time out and actually talk to someone without having any expectations. That's what I'd say.
What do you think, Leandra?
I I think it's a good idea to take the time to talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm a person just like you. Don't assume, and stop with this high thinking of yourself that no one else is as good as you.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human beings. We all should be looked at in that way.
Yep. I agree.
I just want to see people step, because there's a lot of people in the community that are good people that, have our interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it only takes a handful to swell that. And I would just like to see, more people step up. So when you're at work and somebody says something, you shouldn't have to be the one to always say, hey, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It should be the supervisor. It should
No
be
matter how
the
uncomfortable it
right.
is.
Yeah, let people know that that's not okay. And that really, that's the only way that this is going to get any better, is starting at that lower level and just saying to that friend, hey, you might think that that's funny or whatever, but it's not okay. I don't agree with it, And when you start doing that on a regular basis, then people will start, maybe they'll start to get it.
For me, it's there's been some really great people that have embraced me and loved me and helped me to get places that I would have never gotten on my own. I acknowledge that a lot of the things that I'm able to do it's really because others have kind of cleared the way or helped to make a way. So what I would like to see the community do is to basically do everything that you guys just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't laugh at the racist joke.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stand by and come up with your own joke,
Mm-hmm.
right? And don't make me the butt of your joke,
Yeah.
because there's only so much that people can take. And what I've come to see is that after people that look like me have had all they can take, and then they respond in a way that
Mm-hmm.
you keep saying they're going to, then all of a sudden it's, see, I told you.
Look at, that's what I was looking for.
I told you they would.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they would.
Mm-hmm.
I knew she was like this, right? But nobody talks about the constant pushing,
Yes.
the constant poking and prodding, right?
Pressure bust pipes.
And so pressure does bust pipes. You are absolutely right, sir. If you're going to care about people, care about people.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
Just be
Absolutely.
human.
All lives matter. I get it. Sick of hearing it. But until my life matters, then that's a false statement.
Yeah. Think about the person of color, for that higher position. Think about that person of color for
your dinner party.
At the dinner party, or bringing them in, and and don't expect that one person to be your teacher. Come
Right.
to meet that person with some level of understanding. At the very least, just listen to the things that are important to us, and these things that are happening right now in our country, they didn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
We didn't just wake up one morning and start burning things down. Like, we literally are revolutionizing right now. We are fighting a war, and it's a war to keep our kids from having to live this life. And that's what it always comes back to me with, because I just don't want my babies to be going through the same things that I'm going through, and the same mental breakdowns that I deal with on a regular basis, because I want them to understand just how powerful and beautiful and important they truly are. I definitely think there will have to be a part 2, because there's so much we didn't get into, and maybe that'll be like a bonus episode, who knows, but we'll figure it out, because I think that this has been a long time coming, and I think that it's important to hear directly from the people who are experiencing the pain. You cannot tell somebody how to process their trauma and their pain. The most you can do is support them, elevate them, and help them move forward, and that's going to take you taking a step back as a white person. And that's going to take you meeting them with empathy and love, and not going in with your own preconceived ideas of what you want them to turn out to be, or where you want them to go with you. So thank you again for coming and being part of this.
Thanks for inviting us.